Hello, my name is Matthew Gold. I am the director of the Williams Percussion Ensemble here at Williams College. And I am delighted today to be joined by some very special guests who are all intimately connected to one of the featured works on our Friday, November 6th concert program. The work is Lux Semitae, which translates to Light the Paths for Percussion Ensemble by the composer Alexis C. And Alexis is here with us, as well as the commissioner of the work, uh, Benjamin Perez, and two of the student members of our ensemble, Noah and Shaurya. And I'll talk more about all of this in a moment, but I wanted to start by saying a few things about how we came to this work and why we're here to discuss it today. As we were going into the beginning of the semester and I was thinking about programming, I think my primary interest was finding, first of all, a way to come back to performing music together, to rehearsing music, to making music and connecting in that way. Beyond that, we had a number of new students entering the program, first year students coming to Williams and new percussionists. And I was looking for a way, even with distancing, with wearing masks and rehearsal, with all these things, to be able to connect with one another and to have them connect with one another through music and to make that a really important part of the experience. Um, I knew Alexa's work a little bit from a piece that I had recorded earlier in the summer, and I was looking through her work list and I saw this piece and I was very excited about it. Um, but when I contacted her about it, it turned out there was actually much more of a story to the piece than I had anticipated. And in fact, this piece had been commissioned by Benjamin. And I should take a moment to say that Benjamin is the excuse me, associate director of bands and director of percussion at the Bel Air High School in El Paso, Texas. And Benjamin had commissioned this work for his student ensemble, a group of graduating seniors. And I think it was a really intense and personal piece for him, and something that was really connected to that group of players. But as the premiere was scheduled for the spring, of course, the appearance of the COVID-19 pandemic created havoc for everyone in so many ways, and they were really unfortunately not able to give the premiere of the piece as they had planned to, as had been scheduled. And the students, went on their separate ways, and now they've all graduated and moved on. And so, this was their piece, and it was really important to them and to Benjamin, but they had been unable to give the premiere. So Alex, of course, said that, well, we have to check with Benjamin and see if that's possible. And Benjamin was incredibly gracious and generous in allowing us to, be able to play this piece, to perform it, to rehearse it together, work on it together. And so we're just, thrilled to be able to talk to him today about his experience with the work with his students and what it means to them, and and to thank him for letting us have this opportunity. Certainly we're not thinking of this performance as a premiere because really the premiere belongs to them, but sort of more like warming it up for them, and I deeply hope that you and your students have a chance to still perform it and to give that official premiere. um, and yeah um, and I'll just say a few words about Alexis before we move on. Alexis, the composer of the work, is a composer and percussionist based in New Haven. She recently completed her master's in music in composition at the Yale School of Music. She's also the director of education and publications for Arco Musical, which maybe she can speak to a little bit as well. But yeah, I think at this point I will move on to hear from all these people we have with us. So I'd like to start with you, Alexis. Can you say something about the genesis of the work, and both musically and in light of, I guess, our current situation, what it means?
Yeah, thank you so much for all of the collaborations that have come to allow this performance on Friday too. I'm really excited about it. Um, so I was actually looking back at the emails prior to this conversation between Benjamin and me, and just figuring out, we were so excited about this premiere. We actually started the conversation over a year ago in October of 2019 to have this piece come to fruition. And I mean, we had concert dates, we had plane tickets, we had the whole 9 yards to have me travel down to Texas to workshop with the students, to get to know them, and to perform the work and be there for the performance of it. And of course, come mid March, around like March 13th, I think it was March 13, 14, we completely shut down. All the schools were closing and everything went virtual. And, you know, that didn't change the impact of the piece for me at all, because I know that it was a piece that Benjamin really wanted to have as a way of honoring his students. And as someone who has taught a lot, I was also formerly a middle and high school band director for a couple of years. When you work with students over a period of time, you build these connections and get to know them as humans, and just see um, how excited they are about their future. And it's so not fair to anybody who was at that point in high school, graduating, or at any stage in their life where it really felt like I was able to gain a new level of independence and a new level of um, autonomy, and have that sort of pulled away from you in this pandemic. So um, we still wanted to honor and respect the work that Benjamin did with his students, and his appreciation for being able to work with them, and teaching them and watching them grow over the years. Um, in terms of the piece itself, I really wanted to allow some sort of improvisation in the piece, so that the students would get to touch on their independence, and show that they can um, they have learned how to be so musical in their abilities. They've learned how to create nonverbal communications through their chamber music playing, and listen and respond to each other while they're playing. So that was a really important part for me, and I'm glad that it gives students an opportunity to sort of explore those ideas in a set sort of parameter. But I also wanted to think a lot about the heartbeat motion, and particularly in the percussion world, most of the material in the marimbas is like this Swiss triplet rudiment, more or less, without the flam, right? And so, but that also translates to this set of heartbeats that sort of go over each other, phase over each other, and there's moments where that becomes a little bit more clear, but in general, just the um, presence of the physical body, and the understanding of when we play music together, it is our heart, it is our ears, it is our breath. That's also a really important thing for me too. So trying to turn it into a whole body experience in the aural perception of it as well.
All right, thank you, Alexis. Um, Benjamin, could I ask you now to speak about your experience with the piece, and also about your ensemble and the students and what it means to them, and how they're doing now? I'd really, we'd love to know and make sure everybody's doing okay.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Like Alexa said, this is really amazing to just be able to collaborate on a bigger level. It was just a project with me and Alexis, but now that we see that it's grown, I think it's a lot better than what we were confining to ourselves. Um, I'm I would say I'm kind of a brand new teacher. I'm in my fifth year teaching, so I'm kind of on that new stage right now. And these students that graduated last year, they were my first class. They were my freshmen, so we kind of joined that high school path together. I was there getting thrown in the fire. They were thrown in the high school fire with me, and we're like, okay, let's go through this journey together. Um, it was really, it was a crazy journey that we had. And what I mean by that is Beller High School. It's in what we call the lower valley of El Paso, and it's where this low income, kind of less privileged place is. And I was lucky enough that I grew up way more privileged than they were. I had a lot more that my parents were able to give me. A lot of our students are single parent homes, or maybe sometimes they're the ones taking care of their siblings. And you get that when you're teaching them. And you start to understand that. You start understanding that your student can't be at rehearsal not because they're lazy or they don't want to be there, but because they have to work from 4 to 6 in the afternoon and they can't make the sectional after because at 6 to 8 they have to take care of their little brother because no one else is there for them. And so that's really what I really got out of my students, and it was so amazing just getting to teach them. And I think that's the best experience I've had, and I think that's why me and them had such a huge connection, because I learned so much. I realized how privileged I was growing up. I realized how privileged I was to have my parents at every soccer game I had, every concert I ever had. I was lucky to have that. I go to these kids at a Friday night. Hey, are your parents here? Oh no, they never come to my games. Oh no, they're never at my performances, and it hurts. And so I tried to give them everything I could, and we started seeing how at some point, those of you who are going to be education majors, you don't really just become a teacher, because these students stay at the school 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, and they're in your life a lot more than sometimes they're at home. Sometimes the home is just a place to sleep, and you have to realize you're there to lead them through life more than just teach them. You're there to show them everything you can, and that's what I really try to implement in my teaching, and I've always shown these students. So there were these 6 seniors that this piece was intended for, and each of them completely different in their own personality, but super amazing in their own way. I can name them: Caitlin, Stephanie, Jessica, Dom, Worm, whose name is Robert, and Antonio. And we call him Worm because he had never learned music before. Funny, he never knew what music was when he came into high school, um, and he became our best player. But when he came into high school, he was a freshman. He had big old glasses, and I was like, "Hey, you know, Robert, you remind me a lot of the bookworm, the one that's coming out of the apple." And from there, all his friends were like, "Yeah, can we call you Worm?" And so his name stuck. He doesn't even like being called Robert anymore, so we now just refer to him as Worm. But these 6 students, they hold a special place in my life, and they always will. And they've all gone out. So El Paso, it's a little confined city in the middle of nowhere. I mean, if you looked at Texas, you probably wouldn't be able to tell where El Paso is, because everyone looks to Austin, everyone looks to Dallas. And at the farthest west point, the little tip right before New Mexico in our own little world, is El Paso, Texas. So we don't get recognized by our own state. New Mexico doesn't want us because they're like, you got your own problems. We're kind of our own little deal. And I tell them that's exactly why they need to get out of El Paso. They need to go discover the world. They need to go see what's out there and realize how much is out there. Yes, they might not have the funds to do it, but I show them what FAFSA is. I show them how to get grants. I show them how to get scholarships, because that's what we need to do. Thankfully, 3 of them stayed. 3 of them stayed. 2 of them are in our community college here. One of them, she's working for her family. She will not be going to school, I don't think, anytime soon. But 2 of them joined the military, and one, Caitlin, went off to Texas A&M. She was able to get out of here for college, and we were very happy about that. It's just, I think, an experience you can only realize for yourself. And we can always teach you guys, like, okay, when you're a percussion teacher, you need to teach 8 on a hand, because you need to teach them technique. And you need to teach them this. You need to teach them how to read rhythms. You need to teach them how to read notes. You need to teach them how to be a musician. But you also need to realize that you're there to lead them. And that's where this came from. I ran across I'm always looking on YouTube, always looking on performances. And that's where I ran across one of Alexis's pieces that was being performed by Evan Chapman. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Well, I hadn't heard of Alexis yet, and I wanted to see, like, man, this is really great work. So I went, just like you did, through her list and started listening to all her works and said, wow, she has not only, like, good works, it's a variety of good works. Different instruments, different solos, different duets, different ensembles. Like, this is really something, and I would love to work with her because I know where this work is going. So I reached out to her, and we started just collaborating. It's the first time I've ever reached out to a composer, so I was stressed out, like, okay, don't ask any dumb questions. How much do I pay? All that kind of stuff. And she was there from day one. We were emailing back and forth, love to help you out. Like she said, we had the tickets ready, we had the plane tickets ready, um, and it just didn't work out. And so that's unfortunate. It was really sad. I still remember here in El Paso, we didn't get the coronavirus bad at the beginning. So when they started closing everything down, the kids didn't understand. And they're there crying because we were actually on our way to WGI World Championships in Dayton, Ohio. Um, and it got canceled. Everything got canceled for the rest of the year. And so they cried. I was there to try and support them. And soon it turned from weeks to a month to the rest of the year. And it was just heartbreaking to see. Um, I really can't say much more than that, other than I've tried to keep in touch with them every now and then. They reach out to me, but they are living. I promise you, they're living their best life. They are enjoying themselves. Stephanie is our little party animal, so I promise you, she is still partying at her house, locked down. But yeah, this is where it came from. It came from the idea that this was a gift because they have given me the gift for 4 years of being able to be their teacher, their mentor, their leader, and it was just worth the journey. And I think this piece showcases that a bunch.
Well, thank you so much, Benjamin, for all of that. It's wonderful to have an insight into you and your students. Congratulations on the amazing work you do with them, and I hope we can honor them and you with this performance. And I think this piece will do so as well. I'm sure other ensembles will be interested and will have a life going forward. And your students should know how important it is that it was created for them and that they have this legacy that will, continue to expand through the percussion world. It has a real impact. So thank you to you and to all of them. And with all of that, I would like to welcome now Noah and Shaurya, two of our ensemble members, who at the time that you were describing were also completing high school. They were in their senior years and preparing for college. And now they begin their college life in this pandemic with these, you know, um, in these strange times and with all these restrictions and just this very different life. And I would love to hear from them what it was like at the end of last year, what it's like to start college now, and anything about making music in these times.
Yeah, I can start. So yeah, when I look back at when we first heard the news, I was on my senior trip to Disney World in Florida, and our last day there was the day before all of Disney World shut down. So that was a real shock, and I was very fortunate to get that in, first of all. So in that way, it was we had that, but and we didn't know what to think of it at first because we uh, we had came we came back and our school was like, we'll start. Well, even the state of Pennsylvania was like, we are closing school for 2 weeks, and of course, um, everybody was like tentatively happy because they were just gonna miss school and they didn't have to do work. But as it stretched on, it just got, you know, it got to the point where people were getting anxious. People really, were stressing. Um, so that was that middle part of the end of the year when we all were, taking remote classes. That it was a bittersweet end to our senior year. Um, and fortunately, since I lived in a rural area in Pennsylvania, we had an in-person graduation, which I know a lot of people um, missed out on. So that was um, that was my experience from that standpoint in high school. Um, and like Benjamin said, um, what really resonated me was that your students and their stories and their backgrounds, because um, being a Questbridge applicant to Williams, I came from a low income family in a underrepresented like background in Pennsylvania. So that that definitely is impactful, and it's it definitely, you know, has changed, you know, my life to be able to come here. And so far, I know that the beginning of college has been it's been a completely different experience than anybody else has had as a college freshman. But we still are able to, you know, have these percussion practices, which I'm very lucky to do because of the nature of the instrument and not being, you know, blowing through an instrument. So that I'm very fortunate to have, as well as being on campus, which I know, and having this frequent testing so that we can be on campus has been actually really reassuring. And looking at the cases each day for our local area is in the college is reassuring. But I know that it's definitely had impact that's far-reaching, farther than and more impactful than anything that I've ever experienced.
Yeah, I'll go. So yeah, same, kind of a similar story to Noah for sure. Being a senior in high school. Our school was actually on spring break when COVID started to like ramp up. So like we were already like on a break, and we hadn't known that like our last day of school had already happened and that Friday. And so like we got the email that spring break was extended, and similar to Noah, like everyone, you know, it was temporary happiness, like, ooh, another spring break. But weeks just continued to like go on, and people became very anxious and realized that yeah, we weren't going to come back to school. And yeah, again, it was very, very bittersweet for sure. As far as like band in high school, I did band all 4 years in high school as a percussionist, and I feel like band was definitely something I was so it was so helpful for me throughout high school. It was definitely an escape, and it was something that, you know, I could enjoy for an hour throughout the stresses of high school. And having that like taken away during the pandemic was definitely very difficult, while still having all the academics that you had to do. Our band, I mean, it was very difficult to adapt. We had like a couple recordings, but that was basically it compared to, you know, being able to play for an hour with not only being able to express yourself through the music, but also meeting people through band. I think that was a great way. I made friends throughout high school, and I just couldn't see them as much as well. Yeah, I feel like throughout the pandemic, senior year of high school, I definitely became much less motivated because of that. I feel like there wasn't ways I could like express myself, because percussion was one of the main ways throughout high school that I did that. And that was just kind of taken away. And just like how Benjamin and Noah said, it was definitely a very difficult time for all of us during this time. However, I always go back to this proverb whenever I like look back at all this, and it's that new beginnings are often disguised as like painful endings. So this like we had this painful ending here like throughout COVID, but I now look it back and like this new beginning I have here at Williams, and I'm starting to really enjoy it here. I've become comfortable here, and I'm so glad I did percussion here. I was kind of questioning whether I'd want to like continue it, but I'm like completely glad it's definitely something I enjoy, just like last time, where I can just like escape all the craziness and chaos, especially during this time that's going on, and I can just enjoy myself for like 2-3 hours a week, and it's really become very helpful for me. I think throughout in this particular piece, like Alexis said, there's different melodies and things you see that like really represent that this story that we all see, and that overcoming this journey. And like I think in these last two rehearsals with the piece really coming together, I really start to see that for sure. And as far as like the story with Benjamin, I'm so glad that we were able to like be a part of that, and we were able to like morph this, even though it was like a sad ending, into something new and something better. And I'm definitely glad we were able to do that.
Well, thank you for all of that, and to everybody. And just to bring those things together, I think what we're all seeing is that this work was intended as a celebration and sort of a valedictory for the end of the high school experience of this group of students, and it had that really important role there, but it also is acting as a new beginning. And we are really lucky to have this work as a way to come together both within our own ensemble and start something new, a group that this year has so many new players who are meeting for the first time. And more than that, as music is ideally able to do, it connects all of us who might not have connected otherwise, to meet Benjamin, to know about his students, to meet Alexis, even though we're all separated geographically. Um, and some of us are right now, actually very close together, but nonetheless on separate screens. Others are very far away. We're able to come together in this way and learn about one another. And this piece has just played a really important role in that. And for us has been a wonderful way to start the year. So again, we look forward to performing it and to honoring Benjamin and his students, and we're thankful to Alexis for the work, and to all the students here who are performing it. So thank you so much. It's wonderful to talk to all of you, and I look forward to more.